I'm retired First Sergeant William M. McDowell, and better known as Jack McDowell. And what else do you want to know?
Can you spell that for me?
Oh, William, middle initial M, last name McDowell, Mcdowell. First name's Jack.
Alrighty, First Sergeant. And how many years young are you today?
I'm 84, I'll be 85 in October.
And how old were you when you joined the Marine Corps?
Almost 18.
Almost 18.
Right.
Same here, same
Yep.
here. I had about 2 months till my 18th birthday when I signed my papers.
Yep.
Alright, so to start off, can you just describe to me what your thought process was when you signed your papers to join the Marine Corps? What motivated you to want to be a Marine?
I had read about Marines, and I read about all of the battles that they were in, not all of them, but some of them in the Pacific during World War II. On top of that, my brother went in the Marine Corps a year before me, and he came home and told me all kinds of stories, and I said, that's for me, and I joined the Marine Corps. I didn't even go to the high school graduation ceremony. I just signed up and left. Even forged my mother's name.
So, what part of America did your family grow up in at the time? Or did your family live
I was born in Newark, New Jersey, but when I was 5, we moved to New York, and we lived in Queens and mostly in Brooklyn.
Okay, so I imagine going down to...
Sorry to interrupt, Tucker. Can you come towards me a little bit?
Yes, I can, sir.
That'd be good. Sorry about that.
All right.
Okay, so obviously going from New York to North Carolina, in that time period, as far as segregation goes, that's a big change. New York was a bigger city and probably a more accepting city.
Yeah.
North Carolina was different. Did you not know that you weren't going to be training with the White Marines when you were on your way to Montford Point?
My brother told me about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he went through Montford Point recruit training also.
Okay, so you kind of had like a decent knowledge of what was going to happen.
Well, I really didn't pay much attention to him, but when he gave me a flavor of what it was all like. And even so, after leaving the New York, New Jersey area and moving south, even before I got to North Carolina, there were signs of segregation on the train and all that. And it was a bit of a cultural shock for me upon arrival, with all the signs, colored only and things like that. But on the base, they were all black guys, so it wasn't a problem until I graduated from boot camp and had to leave the base. And then you run into it again.
So I don't know about you, when I joined the Marine Corps, I got on that plane, I flew into Savannah, Georgia, I got on a bus, and I'm on my way to Parris Island.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've got my head down, and I'm nervous. What did I get myself into, all of this?
Yeah.
Describe your thought process on the bus pulling into Montford Point.
Well, the bus took me to the main gate, which was a little shack with 2 guys in it, and of course they started harassing me right away, and they sent a truck up. There was some other guys there, and they took us down to the training area, and there was a lot of screaming and hollering, as you can imagine, and I thought I'd entered an institution for the mentally unbalanced because, it was a riot. I never saw so many raggedy, crazy, sweaty people in all my life in one spot. It was controlled mayhem, as far as I could tell. But went through it. Had a few problems. Almost didn't graduate out of boot camp, but I finally made it. And they wanted me to become a steward. And I said I didn't join the Marine Corps to be a steward. I came to fight Japanese. And they said, you're going to steward school. I said, aye, sir. Went to steward school. Of course, we all flunked out on purpose. And they sent us overseas to Okinawa. Got there 2 weeks before they dropped the bombs on Japan.
Can you describe your time spent in Okinawa? What you were doing out there?
I learned how, for the first time in my life, to drive, and I drove an ammunition truck south, and brought a few prisoners and other guys back to the beach. And that's all I did. And 2 weeks later, they dropped the bombs on Japan. About 3 weeks after that, we were aboard ship going into Japan.
So imagine retired first sergeant. You obviously spent a lot of time in the Marine Corps. Can you describe your Marine Corps career and what you went on to do after you got out of the Marine
Sure,
Corps?
yeah. Stayed in Sasebo, Japan for a short period of time. Then we went up to northern China as a security force for the freight trains going north to resupply Chiang Kai-shek and his armies. Was only there about 6 months, 5 or 6 months. Then I got transferred back to Camp Lejeune, back to Montford Point. I was in Montford Point for a short period of time, and a group of us was sent out to the rifle range as weapons instructors. And I stayed out to the rifle range after I'd been in the Marine Corps about a year, maybe 14 months. I made PFC. I was a weapons instructor, mostly with pistols and rifles, and ran the small exchange out there. And also I was the range office clerk because I knew how to type. In 1948, I got transferred with a group of 50 other black guys to Camp Pendleton, to join 1st Combat Service Group. And that was the beginning of trying to integrate African Americans into the Marine Corps. Was at Camp Pendleton up in the 14 area with Combat Service Group for about 6 months. And then me and another sergeant, I made corporal. I was a corporal by then. We both got transferred back east. He went to Earl, New Jersey, which is a naval ammunition depot. And I went to Fort Mifflin, which was a naval ammunition depot. It was all black guard detachment there. 2 white officers, a captain and a lieutenant. But everybody else was African-American security force there. And I was there for a year until the Korean War broke out. Went to Korea, joined the 5th Marines. I was an 81 mortar section leader. When we landed in Incheon, we went through the capital, Seoul, went up to Chosin Reservoir. Well, after the capture of Seoul, we went back aboard ship, went around the peninsula and up the East Coast, and landed, and then we went up to the Chosin Reservoir. Did battle with the Chinese, came out the East Coast, re-landed again, got re-outfitted. I got hurt, I got medevaced out.
So you were part of both the landing at, I believe it was Busan, is that correct? Is that right?
Busan, Incheon, Chosin Reservoir, back out, and then we started going north again, and I got hurt, I got shot, and got medevaced. And then I went from there to St. Albans Naval Hospital in New York, and then I went on I&I duty, on light duty. I was on I&I duty in Pennsylvania and Colorado, and I goofed off on that for a couple, 3 years. Marine Corps finally caught up with me and sent me to 5th Marines again, but this time at Pendleton. And I was a sergeant by then. I was a sergeant for 7 years. And I became a platoon sergeant with the 81 Mortar Platoon in Weapons 1-5. And stayed there until I went on the drill field in San Diego in '56, and was on the drill field as a senior drill instructor for 2 years. After that, and I made meritorious gunnery sergeant on the drill field in '58. Also got transferred to camp to Okinawa and joined 3rd Marine Division there. And I was company gunny for 2 rifle companies and 2-3 and 3-3. And then I came back to the drill field for a second tour as a series gunnery sergeant from 60 to 62. In 62, I went up to Treasure Island Marine Barracks in San Francisco Bay Area as the transit barracks gunny and the barracks physical fitness instructor. And from there, I went on State Department duty, and I went through State Department school here at Henderson Hall in Virginia. and was assigned for a short period of time at the embassy in New Delhi. And from there I went up to Kathmandu, Nepal, in the Himalayas for the rest of my tour. And during that time I did some temporary assignments in the Middle East and one in North Africa. I came back to the States in '66. That's when I joined the Montford Point Marine Association on my way from West Coast to East Coast. And I was assigned as first sergeant. I made first sergeant while I was on embassy duty. Assigned as first sergeant of Lima 3-2 in Camp Lejeune. And then we mounted out to the Caribbean and Panama and different places. And then when we came back, I went to Vietnam as a first sergeant of Gulf 2-9. And we were in the demilitarized area of South Vietnam for the most part, and running search and destroy missions, ambushes, all that stuff. And I got hurt twice there, so on the second time I got hurt, they had to take my left leg off, and eventually my left lung came out, so I had to retire. I retired in February of '68.
Okay, what did you go on to do after the Marine Corps?
I went down to Puerto Vallarta and drank beer and chased girls. I had a hell of a time for a month. And then I ran out of money, so I came to San Francisco and had to get a job. And I worked for the Bay Area Rapid Transit District. At that time, they were building the subway, the rail system throughout the Bay Area, and it was under construction. And so I started as a car cleaner, and eventually they found me, and I got promoted from one job to another and ended up being the acting chief transportation officer over about 800 employees. That's about 17 and a half years, and I retired from there. After that, I worked in Canada as a automated rail transit consultant in Vancouver, Canada, to help get the rail systems developed there. From there, I went to Detroit to do the same thing. I was in Detroit 7 years as a general manager of a rail transit authority, and finally I couldn't stand the ice in the winter anymore, so we moved out to Long Beach, California, and I took a job with the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transit Authority, and I worked there for 6 years as an operations person, manager of operations, and I retired from there. And now I do consulting work in that same field. I do consulting work for engineering firms and municipal transit agencies, rail transit agencies, and help them to either manage certain aspects of the operation or to start up new systems. So that's what I do.
So, going back to the first time you were injured, back in, you said it was in the Chosin Reservoir?
Well, it was after we left.
Right after the Chosin Reservoir? I imagine that was still the early 50s.
1951, early 51.
And, there's probably still a lot of, I don't necessarily want to say tension, but a lot of racial difference still kind of planted in the Marine Corps in certain places. Can you just tell me what the atmosphere was like? And then, after you were injured, did people still see color, or did they say, that's a hurt Marine? Describe what you went through.
The first time I ever had anything to do with white Marines was in Korea in 1950 when I joined 5th Marines. And this 81 mortar section that I took were all white guys. And they were in a state of shock when they saw me as their new section leader. And I didn't quite know, how I was going to handle all this. Most of the guys were pretty respectful, and they did what they were told to do. There were a couple of naysayers, malcontents, a couple of corporals, and we had a come to Jesus meeting a few times, and that went on for about 6 weeks. And as we moved further north, we all got to know each other a little bit better. behind a bunch of black eyes and busted lips and things. And one gentleman in particular, the corporal, was older than I. He was a World War II guy, and he didn't particularly care for me to tell him what to do. But we got that squared away, and he ended up being an okay guy. Matter of fact, when I got hurt, he's one of the guys that came out and dragged me back, complaining all the way. But it worked out okay after that. It was no major problems. After that, and wherever else I was stationed, yeah, there was always overtures of racism of one kind or another. But it wasn't blatant. It was okay. We worked things out.
So after a while, it wasn't about color. It was about, I'm a Marine, you're a Marine, we're in this together.
It's about respect more than anything else. Yeah.
Speaking of respect, it seems like whenever people talk about, military segregation, it's always the Tuskegee Airmen that are kind of brought up. Like they get most of the recognition.
Yeah.
How does it feel after 60, 70 years later since the founding of Montford Point? How does it feel to know that you guys today are getting this and getting the recognition that y'all deserve?
It's awesome. I never expected in my lifetime for anything like this to happen. My only regret is that over 18,000 guys are not here. The ones who are not here, 18,700 and some. I don't know where they are. I guess quite a few of them are no longer with us. Some probably don't care. Some are unable to make the trip. But that gold medal belongs to them too. They earned it.
So, what does this medal mean to you personally? Like, when you say, I'm receiving this today, what does it symbolize to you?
I don't zero in too much on the segregated time, that 7-year period from 42 to 49. To me, the greatest story is the transition that took place over the years up until now, and all the good things that have happened as a result of that. And that's what I think the medal should represent. Not the bad times, but all the good times that have followed some 60 years after that. I mean, you look around, you see people of all races, all colors, from top to bottom. And that's the way it should be. And I think the Marine Corps is all the better for it.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about today and about your fellow Marines receiving this medal?
All good people. All good people. Yeah, they all did their job.